me, your host, Sean Lynn, in the pub for a Dram with Friends, where we talk about faith, family, food, and fun. Pull up a chair and I'll pour you a drink. Episode 73. We are extremely blessed to have Caleb Regnier join us in the pub as he talks about becoming a CCO missionary. Sit back as I pour us a drink. Welcome to another episode of A Dram with Friends. We are very blessed to have Caleb Regnier join us in person in the pub. Welcome, Caleb.
Good to be here.
So I brought out, you said you like the peaty stuff. I brought out Scarabus. It's a very nice one. We had at our whiskey tasting for the Knights back in 2020. So and it's a reasonably priced one. So as a young guy, I thought you'd appreciate that. Yeah. I know as a young father of many, I didn't have the chance to drink a lot of whiskey.
Yeah.
You'd buy a nice bottle for an occasion, and for me a nice bottle was like $40-$50. So
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you. Do you cheers that part of the thing?
Well, we can do that. So Who is Caleb Regnier?
Well, Catholic missionary with CCO, Catholic Christian Outreach. I'm a dad. I got a daughter. She's a little over 1 now. Expecting a son coming in July, so only a few months away. Yeah, it's coming up quick. I'm also a student. I'm actually getting my master's right now. I just started studying.
Where's that at?
It's an online school. It's called the Australian Institute of Business.
Okay.
So I just started that. This might get me kicked out of your studio, but I'm a Riders fan. I saw the Calgary Stampeders helmet, so I'm sorry to say that, but
yes. We all have our crosses to bear. So I've worked many a Riders game, and they are a passionate fan base.
Yeah.
I could say that.
I've gone to a game I grew up in Ottawa.
Okay.
I went to a game in Ottawa, and when I wore the watermelon helmet, you got to do that. And I had a lot of people yelling at me, and it's part of the fun though, but it was fun feeling like a, solo Riders fan in a sea of red.
There's a lot of Saskatchewan people here in Calgary. I'm sure you've picked up, and I remember working one game where they had rented out the baseball stadium next door for a tailgate party, and there was guys showing up to get into the game so drunk I couldn't let them in. So yes, they know how to party.
Yeah.
And so what is CCO for those that don't know it?
Yeah, so we're a university student movement dedicated to evangelization, and there's a strong emphasis on creating leaders. And university is a place where, we'd hope that many leaders of Canada and the world would be raised up, and we hope to raise up those leaders for the renewal of the world. And so for me personally, I work at Mount Royal University here in Calgary, and it's CCO focuses on those campuses and leading those people to Jesus and a life in the church.
And that's where we're looking for leaders at God Squad, Catholic Men's Leadership Alliance. So this seems like a good dram to be having.
It is,
because
yes.
That's where, if we start breaking down those barriers or silos of, well, I'm this, I'm that, or I do this program. We're talking about the universal church here and building leaders. So this is exciting stuff. And you were helping a young man come into the church there at Easter. That was exciting to see. Was there 18 coming into the church?
It was amazing seeing that lineup of young people joining the church. It was awesome.
And so for all those naysayers out there, it is possible, and people are making it happen here in our diocese and around the world. So don't be afraid to get out and have those conversations with people.
Yeah. And it can seem like a dark time in the church, especially, you look down at younger generation and you just say, oh, there's no hope, things are too far gone. You look at the world and the mindset of young people are like, it's too late. But to me, what I'm seeing and leading people to Jesus is that there is hope. There really is hope. Yeah.
So how is it being a young dad and trying to balance being a disciple and
Yeah. Well, I'm not the most experienced, just one, a little over a year. But yeah, to me, it feels like, for me, I said, you said, who am I? And I said, I'm a missionary. And I said that intentionally. To me, being missionary is part of my identity. It's not my job. It's not, oh yeah, 9 to 5, I'm missionary, talk about Jesus, and then I'm done with that. So actually what I found is being a dad and being a missionary, which is my job, my full-time job, but it's gone hand in hand. I don't really view, what I do on campus is a separate me, and then there's me at home, but it really goes hand in hand. So I've done a few times, in the past year, I've had a lot of the young men over to my house. You can see my wife, see my, my daughter, and it's. I'd hope that it's, encouraging for them to see a young guy. I'm a young dad, seeing almost a preferred future for them. Or the world would say to a young, university student, don't get married till way down the line. You don't want that life. You want freedom. You want to, live the worldly lifestyle. And I'd hope that it's kind of showing them a different way. There's actually a better way to live your life. And so to me, the balance has been smooth. It's, I love including what I do in ministry with my family life. And my wife is also a CCO missionary. So she totally, gets what I'm doing. But yeah, it's gone pretty smooth. I think being on campus, it's probably a bit weird being a dad. Not many other university students are dads, but yeah, to me, it's a beautiful actually combination to me.
that's awesome. And that's where it's so exciting. And I was glad that you agreed to come over to the pub. Was we need to see young men in action, and that's where God Squad we've tried to especially reach the young men, because having guys with gray hair like myself saying I wish I'd done this isn't as productive as having young guys like you say yourself saying this is what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
right? And it's so important for the health of the church as
Mm-hmm.
well to have especially men, because it's been left as women's work quite often
100%.
for a number of years,
Yeah.
and that's not what Christ intended.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And it's so, and I have a major passion for men's ministry. It's something I really care about to see, yeah, the masculine heart pointed towards Jesus. But yeah, you're right. For a long time, it's women have been leading the way in ministry, but even just in the church and in holiness. And yeah, I want to see the hearts of men ignited for Jesus. So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So there's going to be lots of maybe further discussion over these another day, and see how we can foster that, because I work in the high schools,
Mm-hmm.
and just try and build off of what you're doing so that they can have that connection from early on right to the end, right? Like
Yeah.
we tell people our conferences are for 14 to 99 kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we I had some older gentlemen show up at the conference for the first time, and just be on fire
Yeah.
after leaving, and then you have younger people the same way. So if we can work on that together, that's where there's, I think, some excitement. I feel like God's
Yeah.
doing something right now in the
Mm.
church and in the world. And
Yeah.
so as a young dad, have you taken up some culinary arts at all, or
I'm pretty good. Last night I made some wings.
yeah?
That's one I'm pretty good at that stuff. Wings
Okay.
and um, I've done a little bit. I'm not too bad in the kitchen. I'm not the best, but I'm not too bad.
Have you mastered your dad's crepes yet, or
That I that's something I have learned. He taught me how. He makes great crepes. He kind of showed me the technique.
okay, okay, because and that's where it's interesting, those traditions and how much our children remember Dad makes crepes, or like my grandkids, Papa make your crepes, Papa make your crepes,
Yeah.
or I just recorded a show where I'm making cinnamon buns, and just the wisdom of cinnamon buns,
Yeah.
and how that can bring people together,
Mm.
right? And I'm sure your chicken wings attract a crowd as well.
They might need a little work before they attract a crowd,
Oh, okay.
but I'll get there.
Practice makes perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. My family just have to suffer as I perfect my technique. But
Oh, yes, yeah. At our 25th anniversary celebration, my kids got up, and I don't know if you remember Arthur the aardvark
yes, I remember.
growing up,
Yeah.
and there's one of the episodes where, and they all got up and sang, "My dad's a chef. You think that's great? Just try and guess what's on your plate."
Yeah. I remember that episode. Yeah.
So yes, we that's why we have families, is to experiment on them, right?
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. And you talk about tradition. It's interesting. Probably some listeners don't know. CCO was founded by my parents, and it's interesting that I'm working for CCO now, and actually growing up, I didn't think I would go into ministry. It wasn't something I thought I could do. It felt almost lazy to me to do what my parents did. Felt like, oh, you got to make your own way, and so I was kind of studying sciences in university. I never thought I could do it. Like I said, it felt kind of lazy, or the default option. But I really loved what I saw my parents do, and so CCO was founded over 30 years ago. So I would have grown up seeing young men and women in their university years who loved the Lord, who were living, a fully Catholic lifestyle. So I saw that, and I was always inspired by that. But again, I didn't think it was for me. I didn't think I could do it. But for me, it's really in university. I got involved with CCO, and I led a faith study myself. And I remember I led a faith study, and I was leading a young man in his first year. I was in my second or third year at this point. And through discovery, which is our basic faith study, basically talks about Jesus, relationship with him, putting him at the center, living life in the church. Basically, I saw this young man's life transformed. I saw him, say yes to Christ and to living, a fully Catholic lifestyle, and seeing him change his life and orient his life towards Jesus. My eyes were open, and I felt God speaking to me. If this is what I can do through you, between your classes, I was taking a full course load, and I'd do this in between my time. He said, if this is what I could do in this time, imagine if this was what you're doing full time. And I remember in that kind of moment, my heart was open. And there's a few other kind of moments that, helped me make that decision, but it was really a unique calling. And what I've, later realized was it's actually honorable for a son to follow in the work of his father. Jesus was a carpenter because Joseph was a carpenter, and it's actually, yeah, like I said, honorable. And, you're talking about family tradition, and, but that's been a soul searching journey for me, where there's, kind of fear. Okay, does it seem like I'm just doing this because it's there? But I've really come to a place where God's really inspired me that I'm to be missionary. And it's actually an honorable kind of piece, that it is what kind of my dad and my mom actually kind of the tradition that they laid out for me. And so yeah, that's, you started talking about crepes, and I went on that, but
No, and like I followed my dad. He was a police officer, and but it very much became. I realized it was a vocation for me, a calling that God could use me in that position.
yeah,
And like, it's not like I'm there evangelizing but every day, but I am by my actions and my words and how I
yeah,
treat people. And so and they do notice. I was For 1 year, I had to work the front counter, and I was checking in sex offenders for a year.
okay,
I had a sex offender come and write me a nice letter because of the way I treated him.
wow,
So, and it doesn't matter where you are in your life. If you, that saying preach the gospel always, and if necessary, use words, but also don't be afraid of your sharing your faith with somebody. And it doesn't have to be, are you saved, like that. It's more just being honest and open with them, right?
Yeah.
And walking with them.
Yeah. Totally. And I think, especially I think at this, what I see on campus, with young men is, there is, that important step to take of, you kind of using your words, talking about Jesus, clearly, because, a lot of young people, there are many who do have a negative view of the church and of Jesus, right? We know that there are many who have a negative view, but I'd say the majority of young people are more apathetic than anything. They don't have, they probably don't have a great view of the church, but they probably don't hate the church, and they believe in God, but they're not really thinking about that too much. And so, what I've seen on campus is, that important step of kind of, okay, I see your life and I'm maybe inspired, or I'm kind of inspired by your kindness. But that kind of difficult, scary step of kind of using your words is, I think, really key for this generation. Because the reality is they're not going to come, they're not seeking us, right? They're not coming in on Sunday saying, hey, I want to learn more about Jesus, right? If anything, they're kind of turning the other way.
Yeah.
And so we're at a place, and that's where I feel so convicted to be on campus, is we need to go to them. Like, this is a time where we need to, in our workplaces, in, wherever we are, in our schools, wherever, we need to actually be going to the lost, right? Those that don't know Jesus, and actually inspiring them back, right? We can't just wait for people to come to us. And that's a difficult reality, but I really think that's where we're at.
Well, and you don't have to be a theologian to walk with people, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to have this great education. You just, because if you don't know, be honest, I don't know, I will go ask somebody or find out, right? And there's so many resources out there right now that
100%.
that can help you answer, including heroicmen.com. God Squad's got some stuff, but there's lots of resources out there to help you answer any question you have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that can paralyze us so much in ministry, to use our words. We think, I'm not equipped enough. I don't know the right arguments for this hot topic issue.
Yeah.
And so we actually don't do anything.
Yeah.
And maybe an encouragement, something that's encouraged me, is, I've been a missionary for 5 years. In one of the most secular places there are, the university campus, I rarely face people coming at me with arguments against Catholic doctrine. Coming at me, oh, why does the church say this about this topic? I can't think of one time that's happened. And I think we think that if we're going to talk about Jesus, people are going to come at us with kind of anger, and even through some of the major scandals the church has faced in the past 2 years, even 3 years. There's been major scandals the church has faced. And as the missionaries, went onto campus, and CCO, sorry, I should have said this earlier, CCO's on many campuses across Canada, and most major cities have a CCO campus. But as the missionaries are going out, we're saying, do your research, get prepared. There's going to be people who are going to be arguing on these, scandals. But nothing happened. And I think we have a misconception that people are going to kind of come at us when we say that we're Catholic. But actually, when you actually propose Jesus, the person of Jesus, and a relationship with him, people aren't going to come at you saying, you're saying God loves me? Who do you think you are saying God loves me? No, that's a positive message. And the threat is we can feel paralyzed in ministry because we say, oh, I'm not, get someone else. There's others that are more kind of smart than I am. But actually, one of the most important things we can do is start with the person of Jesus. That we're created for relationship with him, that he knows us and loves us is basic stuff. But really that he knows us and loves us, that our sin actually separates us, and that Jesus died on the cross to restore a relationship, and that we can actually choose to follow him. When you start at that basic message, nobody's going to come at you saying, what? Like, who do you think you are saying that to me? No, that's positive. That's, you
The,
know,
like Jeff Cavins talks about the charisma, right?
yeah,
And just he gave an example where some woman was coming at him with all these,
mm,
the Pope, the
yeah,
yeah, all the stuff that, and he just gave her the charisma.
yeah,
And then she's asking to go to mass with him the next day. You know, like, whereas
exactly.
if you tried to argue those points, you'd probably be there for 6 months
100%.
trying to.
Exactly. And this is, sorry, you're getting me on topic that I'm getting fired up, but that's a great example. And that's why, on campus, I'm talking too much about campus here, but,
But that's where you work.
the young men on campus are probably at a place in their life where they experience the most temptation that they'll ever experience in their life, right? Drugs, drinking, women, it's all there and it's all accessible. Like I was working with a guy who's saying, he had just kind of given his life to God, and he said the next day a girl came knocking on his door, kind of wanting to stay the night, and he was at like that. That's temptation. Being a young man and a girl is saying, "Can I sleep in your room tonight?" Like that is real temptation. And he said, I felt God give me the strength to say no. You know, that's real temptation.
Mm-hmm.
But he, if I'd kind of come to him saying like, you gotta change your life, you gotta stop living, you gotta stop having sex before marriage, all that stuff, which is true. He would have been like, who are you to say all that?
Yeah.
But when I started with the charisma, when I started with Jesus, he came to a place where he was convicted and opened his heart to the Holy Spirit, that he actually had the Holy Spirit gave him the strength to say no. And I think that's where, with especially young men, there's so many vices in young men, and again, university being a place where it's all there for them. You know, if we can start with Jesus, if they can experience him in a personal way, I believe that we can see men who are actually willing to stand up against the temptations of the world and actually live a virtuous lifestyle. That example of Jeff, it's like, but we need to start with Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's where the doors are open. Now we can talk about, church's teachings on, marijuana and everything else. Now they're open, their ears are open. But, Jesus being the message of first importance is something that I've been personally convicted by.
Well, it sounds like you've kind of covered one of my segments. What advice do you give to your 18-year-old self? Because you've been talking about that quite a bit. Is there
Yeah.
anything you'd like to add for that?
When I was 18, I think, when I was 18, I'd, chosen to follow Jesus and really live Catholic life. So, but my biggest advice was, yeah, don't be scared to share your faith, and sound like a broken record, but start with Jesus. Because I in high school pushed some friends away because I kind of started with, I remember, when I was 18, grade 11, grade 12, people started to drink. I remember being very scandalized. I saw my, childhood friends start to drink, start to party, start to do all that stuff. And I pushed them away, and I kind of treated them like I was their mom. I said like, what are you doing? Come on. And actually my friend said to me, he's like, you're not my mom. And it caused a real, that moment like severed our relationship. And I really regret that, because those are guys that I think are, I kind of pushed them away, and in effect kind of closed the door a little bit to faith in their life, because I started with the virtue that I wanted them to be living before I started with Jesus. I started with kind of the rules, kind of shunning them before I started with, listen, like this is what I've experienced. Like come see, come with me to youth group. At that time I was going to youth group, or come with me to mass.
Yeah.
But I'd say to myself, yeah, don't be scared to talk about what Jesus has done in your life. And yeah, don't focus on, shunning people or kind of being judgmental, but actually start with Jesus and trust that he's going to do the rest. And so that would be some of the advice I'd give to my 18-year-old self. So if you're
That's
listening, pay attention to that.
that's great. So Jeff Cavins talks about riding with your posse. Who are your go-to saints? Who are the saints that you walk with every day.
This is kind of an old one, but a saint that always inspires me is Saint Paul. And he's been in the readings a lot lately. His travels.
Yeah.
Even this morning in the readings, like Miletus to Ephesus. He's someone that's always inspired me, because his perseverance and mission, right? Like he went. If he got pushed out of one town, he's on to the next one. It's just his fire for mission, has always inspired me. He's always depicted with a sword, which I always think is pretty, epic. I think you have a sword right there,
Yeah.
But he's one that I've always, in his writings, and whenever I read them, have played a big role in my life. His letters. So he's one, and not a saint, but Frassati, is someone
Blessed
that
Facade,
yeah. Blessed, is getting there, but he's someone that I've kind of identified with. He's someone that was very loved life, right? This is all stuff you've heard, but hiking and smoking cigars. He's just a normal guy, but he was able to capture the hearts of his friends and live both a lifestyle that was attractive and accessible, but also fully kind of set on fire for Jesus. And so those two would be some that I would go back to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us in the pub today. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. And I don't know if you know, the term whiskey comes from a Gaelic term called Ishkabaha, which means water of life.
Okay.
And my prayer is that you continue to lead many souls to the true water of life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I hope you are enjoying this content. Please like and subscribe, share with a friend. Also, go to godsquad.ca where you can pray with us and for us, and consider donating so that we can continue our mission, reaching men wherever they're at. Thank you. As